major newscast.
Good evening. I am Tashan Tyson in with the overview and media news package for today, Tuesday, 4th December 2018. In our lead stories, nationally, Ministry of Health on St. Kitts to increase fogging in mosquito-affected areas, and St. Kitts and Nevis participate in discussions on the implementation of the regional single market and economy. Regionally, missing court files are concerned at least 2,000 criminal cases dismissed in 2 weeks. Internationally, not enough evidence for energy drink ban. And in sports, Luka Modric ends dominance of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. We'll have the details of these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back. Another national news in detail. A large presence of the Aedes Teniorhynchus mosquito, which lives in the brackish waters of ponds and mangroves, has prompted the Ministry of Health on St. Kitts to increase fogging in the affected areas. These areas include Molyneux, Phillips, Christchurch, Mansion, Parsons, Deep Bay, and St. Paul's. Deputy Chief Environmental Health Officer Jermaine Lake says the Teniorhynchus is not known to carry any disease locally. However, it is fairly aggressive, and the current rain patterns are aiding its growth in the above-mentioned areas. In addition to the communities outlined in the schedule, a second set of fogging alternates are necessary between Friars Bay, Frigate Bay, Connery, and Bird Rock. He said early morning fogging is being carried out in the current Connery landfill, as significant breeding of suspected Aedes aegypti species has been identified there. The department is urging householders to use or dispose of stored water or keep water containers tightly closed to prevent mosquito breeding. The fogging exercise starts at 5:30 p.m. each day. Residents are asked to keep their windows and doors open in order to allow the fog to pass through their homes. Persons with sinus or asthma problems are advised not to stay in their homes or in close proximity to the fog. Senior Minister the Honorable Vance Amory is representing St. Kitts and Nevis at the 18th special meeting of the heads of government of the Caribbean Community CARICOM, currently taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. The focus of the meeting is on implementation of the Caribbean Single Market and Economy (CSME). The CSME is an arrangement among CARICOM member states for the creation of a single enlarged economic space through the removal of several restrictions, resulting in the free movement of goods, services, persons, capital, and technology. The regional initiative was the sole item up for discussion on the agenda at the December 3rd and 4th meeting in Port of Spain. Senior Minister Amory is representing Prime Minister Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris at the high-level Prime Ministerial meeting. Minister Amory is accompanied by a special envoy in the Office of the Prime Minister, His Excellency Ambassador Michael Powell, Samuel Berridge, Senior Foreign Service Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Senior Clerk in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ms. Lindis Harris. Premier of Nevis and Minister of Finance, Honorable Mark Brantley, will present the 2019 budget for the Nevis Island Administration NIA on Wednesday, December 5th at 10 a.m. at the Nevis Island Assembly Chambers. He will also seek to introduce and have read for a first and second time the Nevis Appropriation 2019 Ordinance 2018. The bill will seek to appropriate a sum of money for use of the public service of the island of Nevis for the financial year commencing on January 1st, 2019 and ends on December 31st, 2019. The budget is to the tune of $269,952,200 EC dollars. The 2018 budget address was presented on February 12, 2018, to the tune of $227,324,250 EC dollars. This is an increase of just under $43 million over the 2018 budget. Based on the order paper, when the sitting begins, there will be the formal entry of President of the Assembly, the Honorable Farrell Smithin, followed by prayers. A motion for the approval of the order paper as circulated. Messages from Deputy Governor General for Nevis, Her Honor Mrs. Halita Liburd, and announcements by the President will be made before the draft estimates 2019 is tabled. The proceedings will be carried live here on VON Radio. Officials from the Solid Waste Management Corporation SWMC are encouraging owners of derelict vehicles in St. Kitts to use the remainder of the amnesty period until December 31st, 2018 to dispose of such vehicles at the Connery landfill free of charge. The amnesty period began on October 1st, 2018. After December 31st, removal orders will be served. Taisha Henry, Collections Officer, adding that before a removal order is served, a discussion will take place with the owner to negotiate how much time is needed to remove the vehicles. She said once they fail to remove derelict vehicles within the requested time frame, a summons ranging from EC $500 to EC $20,000 can result. General Manager of SWMC, Keith Lee Phillip, said that come January 1st, 2019, his organization, inclusive of litter wardens, will work closely with the police to commence the ticketing process to have persons remove their derelict vehicles from the streets. He reiterated the call for persons to make use of the amnesty period so as to avoid being ticketed. In police news, a man who was culpable last Thursday of a 2015 murder is set to be sentenced on January 17, 2019. 25-year-old Kevin Hamilton of St. Paul's was found guilty by a majority verdict of 10-2 at the end of his trial at the High Court on November 29th. According to information from the police, Hamilton was found guilty by a majority verdict of 10-2 for the 2015 murder of Ernest Graypatch Hendrickson. Hendrickson, a Palmetto Point resident who operated a bakery and shop in St. Kitts, succumbed to his injuries 1 week after being shot multiple times. Hendrickson was shot after a masked gunman entered his bakery and demanded money. He was shot in the stomach after he had no money to hand over. The gunman fled the scene. His murder was the 18th for 2015. At the end of the trial, the judge ordered a social inquiry report in preparation for the sentencing exercise, and Hamilton was remanded to Her Majesty Prison. 42 persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis have been trained as living healthy leaders under the Ministry of Health's Chronic Disease Self-Management Program, CDSMP. The CDSMP program, started by Stanford University, was introduced to the Caribbean region and here in St. Kitts and Nevis in 2015. The training process requires that the living healthy leaders complete a 4.5-day training workshop. They are then required to conduct a 6-week self-management program for persons listed on the Disease Management Registry and or caregivers or persons at risk. These 6-week workshops have been conducted throughout the year and will continue into 2019. 25 newly trained leaders in the program were presented with certificates on November 30th at the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA conference room. Special awards were given to Dr. Marissa Carty, Marlene Huggins-Stevens, and Joanne Charles for their significant contribution and demonstration of selflessness during their stint in the workshops. An Above and Beyond award was also presented to Joseph Richardson. And finally, in national news,
I encourage you to go out and help somebody in the neighborhood. That's what you can give for Christmas. It doesn't cost you any money. It doesn't cost your parents any money, but you go out and give and really invest your time. You can go to the nursing home. Some of you might get together with friends and do caroling. If you can sing or you like to sing, you can go around and sing to persons in your neighborhood. Keep the Christmas cheer going.
Host of the Youth on the Go program here on VON Radio, Miss Zanella Claxton. This is Miss Claxton's advice to young persons for the Christmas season. Speaking during the Saturday morning program, Miss Claxton, who is also the Principal Education Officer PO here on Nevis, encouraged parents to instill a sense of compassion in their children.
I want you to take some time out and even have your children help you buy a gift for somebody else. Maybe a next door neighbor, maybe a child who's in their class, so you know might not have as much. Let your children realize, okay, this year instead of 5 gifts for you, we're going to give you 4, and we're going to together buy something for someone else.
Host of the Youth on the Go program here on VON Radio, Miss Zanella Claxton. That's the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com. Check us out on our Facebook at Von Radio and our Von Radio YouTube channel. News from across the region is next.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It really is. Come and let the Bank of Nevis Limited improve your quality of life this Christmas. Take an unsecured loan of up to $20,000. Ho, 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 ho. That's not all. Take advantage of our flexible loan term options. It's Christmas and it's time to be merry. Contact us today at 1-869-469-5564 or Facebook, Instagram, or visit our bank today. It's the Bank of Nevis Limited, wishing you Merry Christmas!
Season of all.
Welcome back. Now the regional news in detail. Out of the BVI. The government is concerned of how frequent a considerable number of criminal cases, some more serious in nature, are being dismissed in the magistrate's court. The matters are being thrown out of court for want of prosecution, which typically is a conclusion that the Crown has inexcusably delayed moving the matter along. Chief among the reasons the court has been concluding that there is a want of prosecution is that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has been unable to locate the relevant files for these now dismissed court cases. The DPP's office is the agency that largely prosecutes accused criminals on behalf of the Commissioner of Police. Based on a tally from local media, at least 24 matters were dismissed in the last 2 weeks alone. Dismissed matters over that period include 1 case of forgery, 2 matters relating to possession of a controlled drug, and another 2 for possession of a controlled drug with intent to supply. 1 hour before midnight on Friday and the start date for delivery of the biggest campaign promise by the ruling People's Democratic Movement, PDM, a release from Premier Charlene Cartwright Robinson's government in the Turks and Caicos Islands, TCI, cancelled the commencement date of the Hotel Service Charge Law, the party's signature piece of legislation. The press release came from Deputy Premier and Minister for Immigration and Labour, Sean Astwood, who has ministerial responsibility for service charge, oversight and management. The PDM promised that if it was elected to office, it would amend that in favour of 100% to workers. In an attempt to do so, the new service charge ordinance was passed with much fanfare, with only 1 member of parliament voting to defer its passage. The service charge issue has been a hotly debated political point since the Michael Mistick government introduced legislation in 2004 to create a split of 60-40 in favor of workers on a 10% service charge 2 bills of guests visiting the islands. Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, says his government will have nothing to do with decriminalizing the use or possession of small quantities of cannabis. According to local media, he made this clear when addressing a meeting of the Select Committee of Parliament, which was tasked with further examining and soliciting input for amendments of 3 bills: the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act, the Cannabis Cultivation Amnesty Bill, and the Permitted Use of Cannabis for Religious Purpose Bill. What Dr. Gonsalves assured was that his government was prepared to amend the Drugs Act so that there will be no jail time. There will only be a fine for possession of small quantities of cannabis. These quantities will be determined in due course. Amendments would also have to be made to the Rehabilitation of Criminal Offenders Act so as to allow for the fines to be collected through a civil process, but the PM repeated that there will be no charge to the offense being a criminal one. Past offenses related to smaller quantities can be expected to be erased once the Parliament passes the amendments as proposed. And finally, a report on the Fly Jamaica crash landing at the Cheddi Jagan International Airport CJIA early last month has been presented to the Guyana Cabinet by Minister of Public Infrastructure David Patterson. Minister of State Joseph Harman, who made the disclosure, said Cabinet was briefed on the details of the November 9th incident. The Fly Jamaica plane, which had been heading to Toronto, Canada, carrying 120 passengers and 8 crew members, returned to the CJIA after experiencing technical difficulties. It overshot the runway when it returned at 2:53 a.m., resulting in injuries to 10 passengers and damage to the aircraft. Meantime, with regard to the alleged theft of personal belongings from the plane by 4 fire officers of the Guyana Fire Service, who first arrived on the scene, Minister Harman deemed the actions as reprehensible. The fire officers were charged with simply larceny and were released on US $477 bail when they appeared in court last week. That's it for Original Stories. Stay with us for news from around the world. Welcome back, and now the international news in detail. Experts advising the government have said there is not enough scientific evidence to warrant a ban on the sale of energy drinks to children. However, the Science and Technology Committee said concerns in society and evidence from teachers could justify a ban. MPs have recommended more prominent labels saying the drinks were not suitable for children. Critics said they were disappointed not to see a recommendation for a ban. A number of big supermarkets already banned their sale to under 16s due to concerns over the levels of sugar and caffeine in them. In August, a public consultation was launched into whether to make it illegal to sell energy drinks to children. Young people in the UK are the biggest consumers of energy drinks in Europe for their age group. Italian police have arrested the man said to be the new head of the Sicilian Mafia, along with 45 associates. The dawn raid in Palermo netted 80-year-old jeweler Settimo Mineo. He was reportedly elected Casa Nostra godfather at the Mafia meeting in May. Italian media described him as the successor to Toto Rina, who died in jail a year ago.
Among those detained in the early morning raids was Settimino Mineo, an 80-year-old jeweller. Police say the mafia in Sicily, the Cosa Nostra, had anointed him as its new boss of bosses at a rare summit of the group in May. He replaced the notorious former chief, Toto Reina, nicknamed the Beast for his murderous regime over 4 decades. He died in prison last year. Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Luigi Di Maio praised the police for their arrests, saying there was no room in the country for what he called this kind of scum.
Fuel tax rises, which have led to weeks of violent protests in France, have been suspended for 6 months. PM Edouard Philippe said that people's anger must be heard and the measures would not be applied until there had been proper debate with those affected. The protests have hit major French cities, causing considerable damage for the past 3 weekends. Here is more in this report.
He's prided himself on being a new kind of French president, one who would not give way to the street, would not flip-flop as his predecessors have done, and his view thus landing France in its current predicament. But now he's done just what they've done. He's had to give way to the street. Now, they're putting a positive spin on it as well as they can. One can understand why they want to put it that way, but I think the blunt fact is that he's been stopped in his tracks on this one, on a major part of his programme, which was, you know, green taxes. He's had to pull back. It's a very big blow for him.
And finally, ships have begun heading through the Kerch Strait towards 2 key Ukrainian ports. A Ukrainian minister has said 9 days after Russia opened fire on 3 boats. Mariupol and Berdyansk were partially unblocked, said Vladimir Omlyan. Russians seized 24 Ukrainian sailors on 25th November in the first open clash between the 2 states since 2014.
Merchant ships destined for Ukraine's Azov ports are now once again passing through the Russian-controlled Kerch Strait. That's not to say Ukraine is happy. There's still a backlog of ships, and prior to the crisis, many were waiting days for the Russians to inspect them and allow them through. Ukraine's president has this morning met some of the families of the sailors who were captured by Russia 9 days ago. The 24 men have been moved to Moscow and look set to be put on trial, charged with illegally crossing the border.
That brings us to the end of our news segments. The latest in sports is next. Welcome back. Another sports in detail. In football, Real Madrid and Croatian midfielder Luka Modric won the 2018 Ballon d'Or, becoming the first player other than Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo to claim the award in more than a decade. Modric, 33, won his 3rd successive Champions League in May before helping Croatia to a first World Cup final. Former Brazil and AC Milan forward Kaká in 2007 was the last player other than Messi or Ronaldo to win it. Ronaldo, who joined Juventus from Real Madrid in the summer, came second. Barcelona forward Messi finished 5th with Atletico Madrid frontman Antoine Griezmann and PSG attacker Kylian Mbappe, both of whom won the World Cup with France 3rd and 4th respectively. Still in football, Mark Hughes has been sacked as Southampton manager after 8 months in charge. The Saints, who drew with Manchester United in the Premier League on Saturday, are 18th in the table. Southampton confirmed the move in a statement, adding, "The search for a new manager to take the club forward is already underway." First team assistant coach Kelvin Davis will take charge of the team for the game against Tottenham on Wednesday. Hughes, who also had a spell at the South Coast club during his playing career, joined Southampton in March, 2 months after being sacked by Stoke City. For Hughes, it is hard to see where he will go next after successive sackings at Stoke and Southampton in such a short amount of time. In athletics, Russian athletes will remain banned from international competitions after the IAAF upheld the country's suspension into 2019. Athletics governing body banned Russia in November 2015 because of evidence of state-sponsored doping. The ban will remain in place until samples and data from Moscow's former anti-doping laboratory are made available. Russia must also pay all costs incurred by the work of the IAAF's task force. It is the 9th time the IAAF has turned down Russia's appeal for reinstatement. The decision puts the IAAF at odds with other sporting bodies such as WADA and the International Olympic Committee, IOC, who have revoked their own suspensions of Russia. Still in athletics, Olympic sprinter James Dasilo has appealed for public help to pay for vital surgery, which he says will save his career. The London 2012 and Rio 2016 Olympian, who missed the 2018 Commonwealth Games with injury, ruptured his Achilles tendon in training on Friday. Dasilo requires an estimated £25,000 if he is to have any chance of reaching Tokyo in 2020. Rehabilitation for people who suffer fully ruptured Achilles tendons can take up to 2 years, but advanced techniques can reduce that risk to 12 months. And finally, in local sports, the final round of preliminary matches in the Malcolm Gishard Basketball League have been completed and the playoffs commence tonight. The 4 top teams emerging after the preliminary matches are CG Rebels, Dynasty Ballers, CG Massives, and Eagles. The playoffs will commence tonight when Dynasty Ballers take on CG Massives. Thursday, December 6th, the CG Rebels will engage the Eagles. That's it for sports. The general weather forecast is next. Welcome back. Another local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. Weather tonight will be partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of showers. Weather tomorrow will be partly sunny with a 30% or low chance of showers. Winds are easterly at 19 to 28 kilometers per hour or 10 to 15 knots. Seas are 1.5 to 1.8 meters or 5 to 6 feet. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution. Sunrise tomorrow would be at 6:26 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the Major News package for today, Tuesday, 4th December 2018. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, Ministry of Health on St. Kitts to increase fogging in mosquito-affected areas. And St. Kitts and Nevis participate in discussions on the implementation of the regional single market and economy. Regionally, missing court files concern at least 24 criminal cases dismissed in 2 weeks. Internationally, not enough evidence for energy drink ban. And in sports, Luka Modric ends dominance of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tashan Tyson, wishing you a pleasant evening.